The Assembly will come to order. The Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Assemblywoman Black. Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblywoman Carlton. Assemblywoman Cohen. Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblywoman Dickman. Assemblywoman Duran. Assemblyman Allison. Assemblyman Flores. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Garlow. Assemblyman Hafen. Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman Howdigi. Assemblywoman Kasama. Assemblywoman Krasner. Assemblyman Levitt. Assemblywoman Martinez. Assemblywoman Marzola. Assemblyman Matthews. Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblywoman Brittany Miller. Assemblyman C.H. Miller. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Assemblywoman Nguyen. Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblyman Ornlicker. Assemblywoman Peters. Assemblyman Roberts. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblywoman Thomas. Assemblywoman Titus. Assemblywoman Tolles. Assemblywoman Torres. Assemblyman Watts. Assemblyman Wheeler. Assemblyman Yeager. Assemblywoman Titus. Speaker Frierson.
Here. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect that Assemblywoman Titus is absent excused. We have 41 members present.
There are 41 members present. There's a quorum. The Assembly will please rise for the prayer by Reverend J.J. Tuttle of the Connected Nas here in Carson City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. God of wisdom, we seek your help tonight. Come and let your wisdom fall upon us as we gather for this assembly. Give us clarity so that we can effectively tackle each part of tonight's agenda. Reveal problem areas and show us the best solutions that apply. Point our eyes to every positive outcome since our last meeting together, and let these favorable results and developments encourage every heart in this room. Dear God, help us apply your wisdom as we decide on certain matters and make plans on behalf of the state of Nevada and its residents. This we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Order business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Tuesday, March 2nd.
Mr. Speaker.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with further reading of the journal and authorize the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make necessary corrections or additions.
You heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Go to order business 4, reports to standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services, to which will refer to Assembly Bill 1626-3562, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same act. The recommendation do pass. Rochelle T. Wynn, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Natural Resources, to which was referred to Assembly Bill 74, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same act. The recommendation do pass. Howard Watts, Chair.
Go to order business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Assembly Joint Resolution 6, introduced by the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, proposing to amend the Nevada Constitution to revise provisions limiting the use of proceeds from the imposition of certain motor vehicle fees and fuel taxes.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that AJR 6 be referred to your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution Number 2, introduced by Assemblywoman Black, terminating the emergency described in the Declaration of Emergency for COVID-19 issued by the Governor on March 12, 2020.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that ACR 2 be referred to the Chief Clerk's desk.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. As a point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. The motion is not debatable.
Per parliamentary procedure and Mason's manual, motions are not debatable. You've all heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. Go to order business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills.
Assembly Bill 184, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson and Benitez Thompson, an act relating to small businesses, creating the Office of Small Business Advocacy within the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, setting forth the powers and duties of the Office of Small Business Advocacy, authorizing the Office of Small Business Advocacy to accept gifts, grants, and contributions, providing that the records of the Office of Small Business Advocacy are confidential, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 185, introduced by Assemblyman MacArthur et al., Senators Goycochea and Hansen, an act relating to wages, eliminating certain scheduled increases to the minimum wage and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 186, introduced by Assemblyman Nguyen et al., an act relating to peace officers, prohibiting a law enforcement agency from requiring a peace officer to issue a certain number of traffic citations or make a certain number of arrests, prohibiting a law enforcement agency from considering the number of citations issued or arrests made by a peace officer or the amount of fines and or fees assessed from the citations or arrests, and evaluating the performance of the peace officer and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 187, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson et al., an act relating to periods of observance, designating the month of September of each year as Ovarian and Prostate Cancer Prevention and Awareness Month in this state, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 188, introduced by the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, an act relating to special license plates, abolishing the Commission on Special License Plates and transferring the duties and authorities of the Commission to the Department of Motor Vehicles, requiring the department to hold public meetings and comply with certain notice requirements for such public meetings before approving or disapproving an application for the design, preparation, and issuance of a special license plate, requiring the department to compile certain reports and submit such reports to the Director of the Legislative Council Bureau for transmittal to the Legislature or Legislative Commission as applicable, requiring the department to submit certain final written reports from the Legislative Auditor to the Legislature or Legislative Commission as applicable, transferring certain duties and authorities relating to certain actions concerning charitable organizations from the Commission to the Department, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 189, introduced by Assemblywoman Gorlo et al., Senators Canizaro et al., an act relating to Medicaid, requiring, to the extent authorized by federal law, the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to include in the state plan for Medicaid presumptive Medicaid eligibility for certain pregnant women, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 190, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, an act relating to employment, requiring private employers to provide employees with sick leave, to allow an employee to use such leave to assist a member of the employee's immediate family with certain medical needs, providing penalty and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 191, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to Medicaid, requiring the state plan for Medicaid to include coverage for the services of a community health worker under certain circumstances, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 192, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to public health, requiring, with certain exceptions, the testing of pregnant women for certain sexually transmitted infections, revising provisions concerning the testing of pregnant women for syphilis, revising penalties for failure to comply with provisions concerning testing of pregnant women for sexually transmitted infections, providing a civil penalty, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 193, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to Medicaid, requiring the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to take certain actions to expand coverage under Medicaid for postpartum and other services for pregnant women, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 194, introduced by Assemblyman Torres et al., Senator Donati, an act relating to education, requiring the annual report of accountability to include certain information relating to restorative justice, revising provisions relating to the suspension or expulsion of pupils, requiring the Office for a Safe and Respectful Learning Environment to provide certain guidance to the Board of Trustees of a school district, requiring the Department of Education, in consultation with the Office, to adopt regulations relating to the discipline of pupils, exempting certain hearings relating to appeals of the suspension or expulsion of pupils from the provisions governing public meetings, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 195, introduced by Assemblyman Torres et al., Senators Dennis and Gennady, an act relating to education, requiring the Board of Trustees of a school district to collect certain data relating to pupils who are English learners, establishing certain rights of pupils who are English learners, and the parents or legal guardians of pupils who are English learners, requiring the Board of Trustees of each school district and the Department of Education to submit certain reports, authorizing the department to adopt certain regulations, requiring the Board of Trustees of each school district to identify the primary language of each pupil, requiring a pupil who is an English learner to remain in a program for English learners until the pupil passes an appropriate assessment, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 196, introduced by Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, an act relating to courts, requiring courthouses to contain lactation rooms for use by members of the public under certain circumstances, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. Assembly Bill 97, introduced by Assemblyman Watson, all Senators Donati and Dennis, an act relating to homelessness, revising requirements concerning the provision of health care to a minor without the consent of his or her parents or legal guardian in certain circumstances, revising provisions requiring the state registrar to provide certain certificates to a homeless person free of charge in certain circumstances, and providing other measures properly thereto. Assembly Bill 198, introduced by Assemblyman Krasner et al., an act relating to Medicaid, requiring the state plan for Medicaid to provide coverage for genetic testing to detect birth defects in the fetus of certain pregnant women, and providing other measures properly thereto. Assembly Bill 199, introduced by Assemblyman Matthews et al., Senators Beck and Hansen, an act relating to state government, authorizing the governor to designate any department within the executive department of state government as a charter agency, providing that all employees of a department designated as a charter agency become employees in the unclassified service of the state, requiring the governor and the director of a charter agency to enter into annual performance agreements, requiring the removal of the director of a charter agency under certain circumstances, authorizing the payment of bonuses to the director and employees of a charter agency, providing a limitation on annual appropriations to a charter agency, authorizing a charter agency to retain for its use certain unobligated balances remaining at the end of the fiscal year, exempting a charter agency from certain provisions governing state buildings, state purchasing, and public works, authorizing a charter agency to propose a waiver or suspension of an administrative rule or regulation subject to approval or disapproval by the Legislative Commission, requiring certain reporting concerning a charter agency to the Legislature or Legislative Commission, revising certain provisions relating to collective bargaining for state employees of a charter agency, and providing other matters properly thereto. Assembly Bill 200, introduced by Assemblywomen Bilbray Axelrod, Senator Scheibe, an act relating to veterinary medicine, prohibiting the practice of veterinary medicine except within the context of a veterinarian client-patient relationship, except in certain circumstances, authorizing a veterinarian to supervise a veterinary technician via veterinary telemedicine under certain circumstances, revising which acts constitute the practice of veterinary medicine, establishing certain licensing requirements for the use of veterinary telemedicine, and providing other means properly thereto.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that all bills, Assembly Bill 184 through Assembly Bill 200, be referred to the committees as shown on Assembly Bill introductions dated March 4, 2021, of which all members have a copy of on their desk.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Go to order business 11, second reading and amendments.
Assembly Bill 91, introduced by Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, an act relating to nursing, revising provisions relating to the membership of the State Board of Nursing, and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole.
There are none.
Bills ordered general file. Go to order business 12, general file and third reading.
Assembly Bill 24, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary, an act relating to mental health, revising provisions relating to a forensic facility to which certain offenders and dependents with a mental illness may be committed, and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Are there any remarks? Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 24 revises the definition of a forensic facility to mean a secure facility of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health of the Department of Health and Human Services that is designated by the division as appropriate for the evaluation and treatment of offenders and defendants with mental disorders.
Thank you. Any further remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 41 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent excused. The bill has received the constitutional majority. I declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 27, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary, an act relating to child support, revising provisions of the Uniform Interstate Family Support Act, governing the issuance of certain orders redirecting child support and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks, Assemblywoman Castanos.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 27 revises the Uniform Interstate Family Support Act by authorizing a support enforcement agency of this state, in addition to a tribunal, to issue a child support order and an income withholding order that redirects payment of current support arrears and interest if requested to do so by a support enforcement agency of another state. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 41 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. Excused. The bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed. Order transmitted to Senate.
Assembly Bill 112, introduced by Assemblyman Marzola and Yeager, an act relating to minors, revising provisions relating to compromise claims of a minor and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 into Section 1 end of bill.
Are the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks. Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 112 provides that a parent or guardian is not required to establish a blocked financial investment involving a compromised claim of a minor if the net proceeds of the compromise are $2,500 or less. The parent or guardian may also use the proceeds at his or her discretion for the benefit of the minor in compliance with any terms or conditions ordered by the court. The bill also revises definitions of a blocked financial investment to include a savings account in any financial institution in this state.
Any further remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 41 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. Excused. The bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to Senate.
Assembly Bill 140, introduced by Assemblywoman Wynn et al., an act relating to civil actions requiring certain lessors of vehicles to accept service of process under certain circumstances, requiring such lessors to transmit a copy of the service of process to certain lessees, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, end of bill.
Are the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks. Assemblywoman Wynn.
Assembly Bill 140 revises provisions governing service of process in certain actions or proceedings involving short-term lessors of vehicles. Specifically, the bill requires a short-term lessor to accept service of a summons and complaint and any other required documents on behalf of a short-term lessee who is not a resident of the United States and purchased liability insurance for a crash resulting from the operation of the vehicle within this state during the lease.
Are there any further remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 41 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. Excused. The bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate. If you go to order business 13, unfinished business of the preceding day, there being no objections, the Speaker and the Chief Clerk will sign Senate Concurrent Resolution number 3. We will now go to order of business 15. I know that it is 6 o'clock straight up, and if we can acknowledge a moment of silence before we go deeper into order business 15. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we had some comments from my colleague from Assembly District
10.
Yes, I think I just realized I need readers. So.
Assembly District 10.
Assemblywoman Wynn.
Order of Business 15.
Order business 15.
Tomorrow marks a year since the first COVID-19 case was confirmed here in Nevada. And it is with great sadness that I must share that we have lost our 5,000th life today due to the virus here in our state. Not one Nevadan has escaped the devastation that this virus has caused, and we continue to lose some of our very best. Today's grim milestone is a testament to just how real and deadly this disease is. I know that this disease personally hit home for me as I have lost peers and colleagues in my professional life. We have lost people in this building, and we have fought COVID-19, myself and my family. I know in my family, watching my 83-year-old father-in-law struggle and be concerned about his life, watching my father and checking an alarm to go check on him and put an oxygen meter on his hand and make sure that he was okay, and watching my 8-year-old daughter struggle with a fever as I was coping with symptoms myself, was one of the hardest things I've had to do, and I consider myself fortunate. I would like to thank our frontline workers, those in healthcare, those who keep our grocery stores shelves stocked, mental health professionals, and everyone who's worked day in and day out to keep us safe throughout this pandemic. This world would be a much darker place without their efforts. We can honor those we have lost to this pandemic by continuing to take necessary precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and also support the families and loved ones of those who have lost. As a mother, a wife, and a fellow Nevadan, I also ask that we continue to take care of one another and do what we must do to prevent the loss of any more of our own.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And with that, I would ask that the body recognize a moment of silence. I believe that there are electric candles intended at everybody's desk to allow us to vigil. And with that, moment of silence. Thank you. Assembly will come back to order. We'll go back. We'll stay on order business 15. And I will call on Assemblywoman Bilber Axelrod. Assemblywoman Benita Thompson. Just for a little road path to where we're going.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, we just wanted to let members know that if they had any comments for the records under Order Business 15, anything related to the moment of silence, that we welcome those comments at those time.
Thank you. I'll go to Assemblyman Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to just take this moment to remember Eric Lloyd, who passed away in July from COVID. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to acknowledge two people. Willie Garrett, who was a co-worker of mine at the Regional Transportation Commission, passed away in January. And a dear member of our church, Deacon Tom Sibley, the father of a dear friend of mine, Tammy Wilburn, passed away a couple of weeks ago of COVID.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order Business 15.
Order Business 15.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise in honor and memory of a friend and a former constituent, Joe Tinio, who is one of the 5,000 that we lost from COVID. I first met Joe when he filed to run for Assembly District 9 in 2014. I had already filed to run in that seat, and it ended up being a three-way primary. Interestingly enough, the third person in that primary is related to our colleague from Assembly District 34. All three of us campaigned hard, but we were cordial and respectful of one another. I ultimately won the primary election, and Joe pledged to help me in any way he could, and he did just that. Although I lost that general election in 2014, I remained friends with Joe, and he became one of my biggest supporters over the years. I look forward to seeing him at community events, as he was very active in the AAPI community. He was also in a leadership position at ECHO, the Adult Residential Care Providers of Nevada. He always invited me to their annual gala and greeted me and my wife with a big smile and a hug, back when we could hug one another freely. He always made me feel like a guest of honor. Just last week, one of my Facebook memories was of Joe Tinio visiting this building in 2019. As always, he had a smile on his face and a kind word for everyone. I sure will miss him. May he rest in peace.
Assemblywoman Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
I want to acknowledge a good friend, a teacher at Legacy High School. We lost William McCoy in December due to COVID. He was the director of music there. I also want to recognize my mom. She did not live in Nevada, but she's also a victim of COVID-19, and she passed Thanksgiving Day 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Tolles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
I'd like to acknowledge the 30 souls that we lost in a skilled nursing facility at the beginning of this pandemic in my district, but also others across the state and in our assisted living and our skilled nursing facilities. And I'd also like to acknowledge all those brave workers who kept coming back to clean and take care of and continue on in this difficult time.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
I'd also like to recognize the thousands of Nevadans who have not passed away from COVID, but instead continue to suffer. We know that these long haulers wake up on a daily basis, continuing to struggle a year later to receive the health care they need, and we do not know the extent of the long-term health problems they will continue to face. Thank you.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry, excuse me. I would like to acknowledge two people. My family's lifelong friend, R. Ross Johnson, who was a lifelong Nevadan, and my father, Charles Kenny Levitt, who both passed in December. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Brown-May.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Tonight I stand here with each of you, my colleagues, with a broken heart and devastated at the loss we've all experienced in the last year. I would like to call to memory Nino Borges, a young man with a developmental disability who was filled with a passion for life, gone at the age of 29. In the blink of an eye, his life was taken. Cece Duran had the most beautiful smile. In fact, that's how she often communicated. She went to the hospital for something else entirely, but never came home. And Kantilar Modar, the father of 2 adult daughters with disabilities, immigrants from India here to make a better life. He was their caretaker, their support system in their life. Now their family is lost and mourning without him.
Thank you. As a point of personal privilege, I would like to acknowledge Sergeant at Arms Robin Bates, who was, as I have said before, the heart and soul of this body. He represented professionalism, tradition, compassion, and understanding. Robin was funny, kind, and gentle, but firm when it came to upholding the traditions and honor of this assembly and this chamber. He's sorely missed, but as I stated on the second day of session, we hope to conduct this session in a manner worthy of his life and his service. Assemblywoman Bilberry Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in Robin Bates's honor, I will buck up and be here to do what I wanted to do on this special week, reading week. I have the Dr. Seuss hat that was worn by many chairs of education before me. As the chair of education and a mother myself, I know the success of our children is vital for the future. This week, we celebrate Nevada's 33rd annual Reading Week. One of the easiest way to support our kids is to encourage them by picking up a book and reading with them, and I know I did that a lot during this last year. I know, and I have countless books like this one that are completely committed to memory because my Molly made me read it about 5 times every night before I put her to bed when she was a baby. Reading is a way to transport ourselves and view from the world from another perspective. I'm so proud when I see Molly, who writes and creates wonderful stories that she shares with her peers because of her lifetime love of learning through books. Books continue to serve as endless inspiration for young minds and motivation for our future leaders and innovators. Prioritizing our future means prioritizing our children. One of the easiest ways to do that is to read to them. And thank you so much to my colleagues for wearing these masks today. That means so much to me. And with your indulgence, I would like to read a short book from the Library of Assemblywoman from District 30, The Little Hummingbird. It's short. Here is the story of the great forest that caught on fire. The terrible fire raged and burned. All of the animals were afraid and fled from their homes. The elephant and the tiger ran, the beaver scurried, the frog leapt away. Above them, the birds flew in a panic. The creatures huddled on the edge of the forest and watched, all except one. The little hummingbird did not abandon the forest. She flew as fast as she could to the stream. She picked up a single drop of water in her beak. Little hummingbird flew back and let the water fall onto the ferocious fire. She dashed to the stream and brought back another drop. She continued back and forth and back and forth. The other animals watched Little Hummingbird, and they were frightened. "What can I do?" sobbed Rabbit. "The fire is hot, and I am scared." "This fire is so big," howled the wolf, "and I am so small." "I can't do anything about this fire," croaked Frog. "My wings will burn," cried Owl. Little Hummingbird continued to work. She flew quickly, picking up more water and putting it drop by drop onto the burning forest. Finally, Big Bear said, "Little Hummingbird, what are you doing?" Little Hummingbird looked at the other animals and she said, "I'm doing everything I can." Thank you.
Assemblywoman, I might ask, did you not put the hat on purpose? There's still time. It's tradition.
That will be the only picture you see of me all session long, you know.
Thank you. Former Assemblyman Bernie Anderson would be proud of us continuing that tradition. We'll go now to Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seeing no other business before us, I would move that the Assembly stand adjourned until Monday, March 8th at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.